Hey guys, it's Steve and I. Welcome back to Weird Library Stories, Episode 4, the series in which I talk about some weird experiences I've had working with the public at my job at the library. Some weird stuff goes down at the library, people, you don't even know. Before I get started, I'd just like to say I had a woman come in yesterday with a $415 fine. Turn in your library books on time, kids. That's the lesson for today. Book covered in fur! To start off, I'd like to talk about something that I actually talked about in a previous video. Do you remember when I was talking about that book that was covered in fur? It was just a brown, furry book. It was so furry we couldn't put a label on it except on the inside. It was a book about a bear, so it was supposed to be like a bear and the fur on a bear. Anyway, when you check it in or out, a message pops up that says, "Book covered in fur!" in all caps. At least, that's what it said a while ago. But since I made that video, someone has added something to it. Not only does it say, "Book covered in fur," but there's a little dot dot dot, and then it says, "Book covered fur is part of the design." Thanks, guys, because I wouldn't have noticed that it was covered in fur. And even if I did, I probably would have thought that it had gotten that way on accident. Brother's name. I had a brother and sister come into the library. They came up to the front desk, and the girl wanted a library card. So I got her a library card. She filled out the form. Near the bottom of the form, there is a little box called the Allow Access Permission box. And there, you can put someone's name if you want them to be able to use your library card when you're not there. So if you want them to check something out for you, you have to put their name on the application when you get the card. So in this box, she had put her brother's name. But she spelled it differently than she spelled her own last name. So I just double-checked. And this is how you spell your brother's name, right? And she was like, "Oh, no, I'm sorry, I accidentally wrote my own last name. He has a different last name than me." And she started correcting it, and she was like, "Wait, what is your name?" And she looks at her brother like, "What is your name anyway?" And he was like, "Hello, I'm your brother, you don't know my name." And she was like, "Well, I'm not sure if it's hyphenated with my name and your name, or if it's just your name, or if it, what's your name?" And so he wrote it down for her, and she was like, "Oh, yeah. Don't come back tomorrow." It was closing one night about 8 o'clock, and it was the day before a holiday, so we weren't going to be open the next day. And during the last hour that we're open, there are several announcements announcing that we're going to be closing soon. And by the time 8 o'clock rolls around, everyone's out of the building, except people who work there. And we're just getting ready to lock up. But you still have to go through the formality of giving the 8 o'clock announcement. All library patrons, the time is now 8 o'clock and the library is now closed. You must exit the building at this time. If you are 15 or under and need a ride home, please report to the librarian in charge now. Thank you for using your library today. Please return tomorrow during our regular business hours. And that night, it was my turn to do the 8 o'clock announcement. So I go up to the intercom, I push down the thing, and I get to the point where it says, "Please come back tomorrow during our regular business hours," and midway through it I go, "Oh no, we're not open tomorrow." So it ends up sounding something like this. "Please return tomorrow during a regular... No, not tomorrow. Don't come back tomorrow." Throughout the whole library that echoed. And everybody laughed at me. Godmother. There's a man in the library who I've helped several times before. I'm not sure exactly what background he is of. He speaks Spanish, but he looks almost like Native American, and I don't really know what the customs are for his culture, so I don't want to, like, offend him or anything. I was just very confused, because he came up to the reference desk one day and said, "Would you be my godmother?" And I was like, "What?" And he said, "It's really easy. I'm planning to cut my hair pretty soon." He had it in a long ponytail. "I'm gonna cut my hair, and then I need you to mail it to someone." And I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, and then you're my godmother." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I can't do that, sir." Because I had no idea what he was talking about. And he was like, "Oh, why not?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, but that's not part of my job description at the library. I need to stick to what I do, or I could get in trouble with the management. Blame it on the management." And he was like, "Okay." Yikes, what did I just narrowly avoid? That didn't seem like it was legal to mail your hair to a child. Pay ahead. A man came into the library one day, it was in the evening, and he said he just stopped in on the way home from work, and he didn't have time to go back and get the library books before we closed, but he was going to bring them back tomorrow. And they were about to be overdue because they were due that day. And I said, "If you can get them in the book drop before we open tomorrow, then they'll still count as being on time." And he's like, "Yeah, I can't. I'm going to have to come back tomorrow evening, and they're going to be a day late, so I'm going to have a fine." I'm like, "Okay." Well, he accepted it. He knows he's going to have a fine. That's fine. And he was like, "Can I pay it now? Can I pay it in advance?" I was like, "No, sir, I can't charge you for a fine you don't have yet. There's nothing to charge you for at this point." A ridiculous book name. I had a woman in front of me at the front desk one time, and she had a previous fine on her card from a long time ago that she didn't know about. She was actually being charged to replace an item that was never returned. And obviously she didn't want to pay a replacement cost because it's expensive, and then there's a $10 processing charge on top of that. So I told her, if you can find it and bring it in, those fines go away and you just have to pay the overdue fees. And she was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. What was it called? And I look at the title, it's a DVD, and it's called Shape, Butt, Hips, and Thighs. And before I read it all the way through, I start saying it, and then midway through I go, oh no. And we just look at each other and burst out laughing.